Casey, one thing I want to ask you about is in regard to attribution with SKAdNetwork, specifically click-through and view-through attribution, which have been very critical benchmarks in the past, and of course will continue to be important. But with SKAdNetwork, they work a little bit differently. So with SKAdNetwork, what's changing?
Well, in some ways, not a lot. And maybe that is the TLDR answer, right? Not a lot changes. In principle, right, the entire ecosystem of performance advertising has traditionally run on what we call a last click attribution basis. And then there's different versions of it, which are more akin to what one would consider multi-touch attribution, where there's assists and view through and engagements that are not either a click or a view that may all count towards an attribution event, basically. And so that entire structure to a large extent remains the same, right? SKAdNetwork is definitely built on the premise of a last click attribution model. And they've, of course, with SKAdNetwork 2.2, added view-through attribution on top of it. And with it, in the latest version, they also have some notion of assist, right, which begins to give us a window into how the team at Apple is thinking about attribution in general. And the fact is, it's not very different from what we have today with the MMPs, at the helm of measurement. However, the definitions are a little different. Like, what is a click? What is a view? What is an engagement? They've always, traditionally had a certain definition, but with SKAdNetwork, there's enough of a change in definition that it's deserving some attention and possibly some product effort. It's not clear yet that it's a huge factor, but it is something that is worth attention. Couple examples, right? Like in the MMP world, a click-through is basically when a user clicks on the ad, right? There is an element of the user redirecting to the App Store from the ad after clicking, but that's a flow that neither the MMP nor the ad network or DSP controls to a large extent. And so that is not something that is being measured in any strict way. A click was basically a user's click on the advertisement, right, on the ad unit. That changes with Apple's measurement, right? Apple knows when the App Store is actually opened on the device, right? And they're forcing the inline App Store, which is the SK Store, to be the default way of opening the App Store. And so now the definition of a click evolves from a click is the event of a user tapping on an ad to a click is the event of SK Store opening. And so those are not exactly the same thing, although they're very similar to each other, right? And so that deserves some attention. And so there have been, business practices like using the SK Store as the end card to a rewarded video, and so forth. Those types of business practices have existed in the ecosystem. And so one has to see how that might evolve now that an SK Store open would be considered equal to a click by Apple. And so that is something that we're kind of keeping an eye on just to see how the ecosystem moves. Similarly, view-through definition has certain differences. Right, a view is only a view with 3 seconds in view, which seems perfectly reasonable, to be honest. But that's not a definition that everybody was beholden to prior to SKAdNetwork, and so that is a minor change as well that's probably going to get applied. So all things considered, click-through and view-through attribution have evolved just a little bit, purely from a definitional sense. With SKAdNetwork coming in versus MMPs. But ultimately, if I zoom out and look at how SKAdNetwork positions attribution versus the MMP world, it's actually very, very similar. It is still last click. It still supports view-through. It is beginning to show, or they're beginning to roll out a semblance of what one would consider a multi-touch attribution. But in many ways, it is congruent to the world we live in today.